Welcome to another episode of Tosh Talks. We haven't seen each other for a while because I've been busy, very busy, and I've been getting a lot of letters, emails, phone calls from my dear audience asking me to come back on again, and I really appreciate it. I really appreciate the attention, so thank you for that. And today, I'm just going to show you three books. One, a book by Dash Snow called Polaroids. And Polaroids, well, it's Polaroids by Dash Snow. Now, Dash Snow is kind of infamous, or has a wild reputation in the world of art. He no longer with us anymore. I believe it was a heroin overdose. And he was a sort of a wild man of the art world. Mostly in New York, and he's from a very wealthy family. But that is not the interesting aspect of Dash Snow. These portraits of various friends of his are kind of, what can I say, sort of in a party mode. Sort of imagine like it was the 1980s Manhattan, when it was sort of kind of a dangerous time and era. And you have various friends of certain sorts, and you're doing certain things that perhaps your grandmother or grandfather would not exactly approve of. Unless your grandparents are from the 20s, that's different. If they're from like the 30s or 40s, they would not disapprove of it. They would not approve of this. A lot of drug taking, drugs on sort of cocaine on sort of strange parts of the body, of the male body. Males doing male stuff, lots of rats. But seriously, this is a fascinating document of someone's life and his world. And Dash Snow passed away quite young, quite tragically. And this is sort of, Polaroid doesn't last forever, and it's like in life, you're gone, you just leave what you just leave what's left of the world. And at least we have this book, and there should be more works in book form coming out shortly, but this Dash Snow book is quite interesting. Now, this is somebody I have a passion for. His name is Steve Wolf. He has a show at the not Guggenheim, at the Whitney, I believe, right now. And what he does, I'm going to show you the cover, and we'll see more excerpts of the inside of the book, but what he does, he takes book covers and totally redoes it exactly what it was before. In other words, he takes his favorite book cover and paints it or draws it, and you can't tell the difference between the real book cover and his artwork. Now, some of you think, what's the point? Well, first of all, his taste in books are incredible. For example, I own pretty much all the books that's in this book. He also does stuff like music stuff. He has, for instance, Mary Poppins record, one side of Mary Poppins. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is not a photograph, it's an actual painting of a record, a Mary Poppins record. And without a doubt, Mary Poppins has a lot of meaning for this artist. And here's my two favorite people, Warhol and Tintin, together combined. And it's a combination of book covers he puts together. Here's another one. Rockwell and Charlotte Bronte together at last. Now you think, what's the connection of the two? Well, Rockwell did a film version of Wuthering Heights. You did not know that, did you? Well, that's what happened. Anyway, and this book, okay, we show the Degenerates and one interesting music book nerd person's work. Now from Dash Snow, how far can we go to the extreme? Norman Rockwell. Now, in a funny way, I recommend getting the Dash Snow book and the Rockwell book together, because it's sort of like two parts of the world. Do they meet? Actually, they do, in my opinion. I'm not a big Norman Rockwell fan of his paintings, but what's fascinating about this work is, obviously, he didn't do this from memory. He actually had images beforehand, and what we have here is a book of his photographs that his paintings are based on. So, for instance, there's a good example. I think we have to get a close-up later. But this is, for instance, the painting right here, and this is the original source that Norman Rockwell himself took. In a way, he took it on the studio. So in a way, it sort of reminds me of like Warhol's factory, except Norman Rockwell had a real factory too, of sorts. Maybe not as interesting as Taylor Mead or Gerard Malanga or Viva or Edie Sedgwick, but nevertheless, nevertheless a very pretty girl, a very sweet girl. And all this is like source material for his paintings, like for instance like this. Now tell me, does this not look like a Francis Bacon image of sorts? And then it turns it into this, you see, on this other side. So this book is actually quite remarkable. Interesting documentation, and like another favorite book of mine by Francis Bacon, where you does not see his work that much, but all the graphic images and artwork that inspired his work in the studio. And this book is a good companion piece to this Norman Rockwell book. So, Dash No, Polaroids, these should be purchased together. And this is a personal favorite of mine, because he actually paints or draws all my favorite books, and I find that quite remarkable. Thank you for watching another episode of Tosh Talks. Bye-bye.